what to do when you launch some campaigns in Google and maybe you just don't start seeing the results right away. What's going on, everybody? David Feldman-Makrias back with you, and this is an account that we just launched. We launched a few campaigns. We have some more slotted up. We like to roll out launches depending upon initiatives. And unfortunately, even though we launched yesterday, we're not seeing any results. So this is, it happens sometimes, and there could be a couple different reasons on why that happens. So in this video, we're going to go through a little bit of the common steps on why campaigns would not be getting significant results, at least in the early stages. So this account, it does well, right? In the last 30 days, you had 10,000 interactions, right? 10 plus thousand. So to only have one in each campaign is a little bit unusual. Our daily budget is good, so we should be set up to spend, but there's a couple things you're going to want to look into that are pretty pivotal to help generate the campaign to get some exposure and activity. So for the first thing you want to do is make sure your daily budget is at least a certain amount. And how you know that certain amount is correct, I usually work an average daily budget, so does my team. Sometimes we do lifetime, but in this instance, we're going to talk about average daily budget. Average daily budget is what you allow Google to spend per day on each campaign. It's actually a little more calculated on that. Google can actually spend twice up to the daily budget on like a month-long time scale. So it allows some fluctuation to go up. Now with that, you want to make sure your daily budget is set appropriately. And what do I mean by appropriately? Well, first, you have to make sure your daily budget is at least, once or twice a factor of your bid. Actually should be more. So by bid, meaning how much you're paying per click. So if you have a daily budget at $15, let's say, but my average cost per click in the market was $30, the campaign will never really spend because I'm not willing to bid, have a daily budget enough to get one click in one day. So you got to make sure your bid's right. And where you would do that is you'd come in here. I'm going to hit the settings icon. The settings icon, I look for bidding. Now I have everything set to a maximize clicks. We usually do this in the beginning to just get the amount of interactions, especially because I'm on the search network. For search network, we just want to get some interactions at first. And then once we start to get some interactions or clicks and then start to get some conversions too, we can start to, refine the scope of things. So with that, I don't have a bid limit. So I don't really have a problem there. I'm not restricting my bid too much. And I know based on this client who's in the automotive space, the average cost per clicks range between $3 and $6. So I should be at least getting some impressions with some clicks by now. So why aren't I? Well, let's keep going. And just a side note too, if you contacted Google support on this or anything like that, they may give you something like, well, the campaign takes time to learn and things like that. That's a bunch of junk. In my opinion, there are ways to get campaigns to start spending unless they're configured incorrectly. I have, in my near a decade of experience, I have not seen any campaign not lift because they had to, quote unquote, learn. If you give Google money and you configure things right, then you're going to start spending money because Google wants to spend your money. Okay, so let's look at the next thing. Next item to address is actually, for this business, it's what you would look at is audiences, keywords, and content. It's in this section. This is a local businesses, so I'm not using audiences to, draw people in at this point because we're just getting started. It's a local business. We're using high intent keywords to do that, to draw people in. So what I'm going to do is take a look at keywords, negative keywords, and then locations. But I'm actually going to do that in reverse order just so we see everything because I'm pretty sure I already know what the problem is. But let's take you through the entire process. So let's look at locations. Okay, so I just clicked on the locations. And again, I have some information that's sensitive to the client actually blurred out at this point. And I'm only looking at the campaigns that we're talking about as seen by the couple of clicks in the same date range and the average cost really low. So with that, it doesn't seem like my locations are wrong because I'm broad enough, right? I know it's hard to see in this view, but if you can imagine, I'm actually broad enough. If my mileage radius was like just around my house, maybe a mile, that might not be big enough. You need to have enough of a search area, or what's called search volume, in an area to actually show ads. But I know that's not the problem in this case, because I've run campaigns like this before. It's most likely not the area, like 99.99999% not the area. It's a large major metro in the United States. So I'm going to say that that's not the problem. Okay, so right now I'm looking at keywords and blocking most of these brand related keywords, but here's one I'll just give away. It's a Ford store that we're working with. And with this, again, I don't think this is the problem. We have a combination of phrase and exact matches. We have eligible keywords. So we should be pretty good there. But this is one of the instances you want to check, right? So with that, I'm actually going to look into another layer here, but it's also within keywords. And it'll be what's called negative keywords. So negative keywords, again, if you're new to the channel, it actually works similar to keywords, but we're going to block searches instead of pull in searches. And negative keywords can actually overpower normal keywords. So let's see what we have in there. And I think we found the problem. So this is a negative keyword list that's inside the account. It was actually recently added, and there's a bunch of different terms that we just don't want to show up for. Because we're advertising for a car dealership, we don't necessarily want to show up for older vehicles, especially when we're advertising new vehicles. And Google's becoming more broad, so it's important to really confine that scope, right? Here's the tricky part about keywords. It actually really matters what match type you enter them in as. Right now, we're entering them in an all as broad. That could be a big problem, because broad keywords, negative keywords, work very similar to broad keywords now, broad normal keywords. So with that, like, I have a couple branded terms in here: 2007 Ford Edge, 2007 Ford Edge for sale. Now, that's not the same as my Ford F-150, but it actually has the brand word Ford in it, and it's a broad match. So with that, we're probably competing with ourselves, or not competing with ourselves. We're probably negating ourselves. So one thing we're going to try is actually removing all these keywords, uploading them as different match types, probably more exact match types, and making sure anything with the branded term doesn't come up as a negative keyword. We're going to do that. That's most likely going to rectify the problem. And yeah, just be very careful on how you enter your keyword types. More on this to come when we actually remove this and get some results.